The story opens with a shot of a man carefully injecting a green liquid into an egg yolk. Almost immediately, that single yolk duplicates, becoming two. The scene shifts, and we're shown a group of people constructing a star with the name Elizabeth Sparkle emblazoned on it. Elizabeth, as it turns out, is a stunningly beautiful model and TV show host. For a while after the star is put up, people are drawn to it, snapping selfies and basking in the glow. But slowly, that initial fascination fades, and the star begins to look neglected and worn. Nobody bothers to fix it, which is a pretty clear indication that the public's interest in Elizabeth Sparkle has all but disappeared. The scene transitions to Elizabeth Sparkle, who's now celebrating her 50th birthday. She's aged, naturally, but she's still holding on to her job hosting that same TV show. After wrapping up the show's taping, Elizabeth heads to the restroom, only to discover that the ladies' room is out of order for some reason. She walks into the men's room, where she encounters the show's director, who is also there. He's on a call, and he's clearly complaining about how Elizabeth is past her prime. He goes on about how the ratings have tanked because of her, and he needs to replace her with a fresh, young, and gorgeous girl. Elizabeth is absolutely crushed to hear this. The beauty she once banked on is gone. She stares intensely at her reflection in the mirror, noticing the web of wrinkles that have taken root. It's not just the sting of losing her youth. It's the realization that she's getting axed from her own show. Elizabeth isn't about to let everything crumble. She goes to see the director to try and talk things out. He tells her, in a rather blunt tone, "Look, Elizabeth, there's nothing I can do. The show's ratings are dependent on the audience, and I've got to give them what they want. And frankly, you just aren't what they're looking for anymore." The director's words hit Elizabeth like a punch to the gut. She leaves the hotel feeling utterly defeated, and as she's driving, the director's harsh words keep replaying in her mind, causing her to lose focus. She ends up in a head-on collision with another car. Miraculously, in such a massive accident, Elizabeth walks away without even a scratch. It's pure luck. The doctor clears Elizabeth to leave the hospital. But now, she completely falls apart, seeing her pictures being ripped down from billboards. We then see a nurse examining her spine and then handing her her clothes. As she's stepping out of the hospital, she notices that the nurse has slipped a message into her coat pocket. The note says, "This changed my life," and attached to it is a USB drive labeled "The Substance." Elizabeth, intrigued, immediately plugs in the drive. The drive reveals information about a fluid called the Substance, a substance so powerful that it's practically magic, which can provide any older person with a new, youthful version of themselves. This substance also comes with another, which keeps both versions, the old and new bodies, connected. This isn't a walk in the park, but it's also not impossible. For those who use this substance, it's vital to activate both versions every 7 days. To keep the new, young body stable, a daily injection is needed, using fluid extracted from the old body's spinal cord. When one body is active, the other remains in a sort of suspended state. At first, Elizabeth brushes it off as a load of garbage. She tosses the flash drive in the trash, convinced it's a scam. But later that night, she has a meltdown. The photos of her past youth around her house start to really bother her. In a moment of desperation, she sends a text to the number on the drive, saying she's ready to order the substance. Whoever she is texting with doesn't say much, just asks for her address and then gives her a specific address and a call card to use. The next morning, Elizabeth is flipping through the newspaper when she sees an ad placed by her own network, advertising interviews for a fresh new face to replace her. It just piles on the misery. Along with the newspaper, she picks up a black envelope. Inside is a single number. Elizabeth follows the instructions, making her way to the secret address, a hidden, sort of underground location, a locker room. She uses the number card to access the place and opens her assigned locker, where she finds a box, which she brings home. Back home, she opens the box right away. Inside, she finds a variety of things. First, a serum and an injection, meant for one-time use only. There's also a stabilizer, used daily to keep the new, younger body stable, and she already knew from the flash drive that the fluid for this was taken from her old body's spinal cord. There's also a special kit to switch between the two bodies, and specific meal plans for both the old and young versions of herself. Elizabeth heads into the bathroom and looks at her reflection for quite a while, as if trying to decide whether or not she should go through with this. Finally, after some internal debate, she injects herself with the green fluid, the substance. For a moment, nothing happens, then Elizabeth is hit by intense pain, so severe that her eyes begin to throb, and we can see the lenses of her eyeballs doubling and moving around. The next second, her lower back splits open, and from it emerges a new, youthful girl, Elizabeth's new version. A completely new, young body that had been gestating inside the old one. This new Elizabeth stares at herself in the mirror, not really able to believe that what she used worked as she'd hoped. She looks at herself and thinks that she is as beautiful and young as she had ever wished. After a long while of admiring her reflection, she sews up the tear in her old version's back that she tore through to emerge. She then attaches a special food bag to her old body to keep it alive, just like the company's instructions. That whole night, she savors her new beauty. The next morning, she wakes up with a nosebleed, which immediately alarms her, until she remembers that she was also given an activation kit. She remembers being told that each day she must take fluid from her older body's spinal cord to inject into the new body to keep it energized. With that thought, she gets to work, extracting the fluid and injecting it. She immediately feels normal again. This new version is even more beautiful than she ever thought possible, so she gets ready and heads to audition for the very show that fired her. When the people there see her beauty, they are all completely stunned, and the director is quick to offer her the job back on the spot. Elizabeth gives her name as Sue during the interview. After getting selected, Sue remembers she has to switch bodies every week. She makes up an excuse, saying that her mom is ill and that she needs to go to her village every week to take care of her. Without question, the director accepts her weekly request to have those days off to take care of her mom. Sue finally has her old job and is loving it and enjoying showing off her beauty. She quickly amasses a huge following, and before she knows it, billboards and ads for her are all over the city. It's been 6 days since Elizabeth entered this new body. Today's the 7th day, the day of the body switch. After shifting into her old body, Elizabeth attaches the food bag to her new body. Then, she goes to her office, her show, where the director gives her a bonus check for all her hard work. After which he proceeds to insult her and fires her, which makes her sad and upset. The next day comes, and Elizabeth, while checking the newspaper, finds an envelope from the same company she got the substance from. Inside, a message says her refill kit is ready. Elizabeth puts on her coat and picks up the kit. 7 days go by, and Elizabeth shifts back into her young body. This new body is ready to live it up, and she's out of the house a lot. She realizes that her secret could be exposed, so she decides to break down a wall of her home and store her old Elizabeth body in there. All the noise makes her neighbors concerned. One neighbor comes over to complain, but when he sees Sue's beauty, he completely loses his train of thought. He even offers to help her if she needs it, as he lives close by. But Sue's got a secret to keep, and she's certainly not about to take help from him. She slams the door in his face. Then she spends hours putting everything back together, creating a hidden room in her house to conceal Elizabeth's old body. Since Sue is now taking over Elizabeth's life and is on the verge of being famous, she also hides all of Elizabeth's youth pictures. Elizabeth is having such a good time in her new body that she forgets about the fact that it's shifting day. Her old body, Elizabeth, is running out of food, and she needs to make the switch. Sue brings a friend home. While she's busy working, she suddenly feels a nosebleed and her body begins to buzz strangely. She realizes it's time to shift, but instead, her greed kicks in, and she decides to stay in her new body for a little longer. So she extracts the substance from her old body and injects it into her new one. It saves her, but what happens to the old Elizabeth remains to be seen. She continues for another 7 days like this and finally switches. When she's in Elizabeth's body, she sees that one of her fingers has rotted. It's because she didn't switch in time. It's her own fault. Elizabeth, now completely freaked out, calls the company and asks what she can do to fix her finger. The company tells her there is no fix. It's a done deal. They explain to her that she's not two people. She's one person that's split, so she needs to be more careful. Elizabeth, now even more worried, goes to pick up her refills. After getting her new refills, She goes to a restaurant where an old man is acting strangely toward her. Elizabeth notices he has a mark on his hand, just like the mark she saw on the nurse's handbag at the hospital. He is that nurse's old version. He asks Elizabeth if her new body has started to eat her yet. She's terrified, and she runs away from the restaurant. Elizabeth comes home, deciding that she should be happy even in this old version of herself. She calls her friend to come over. She gets all dressed up, wears beautiful clothes and makeup, trying to copy Sue's style. Just as she's about to head out, she sees Sue's posters everywhere, and all her confidence shatters. She messes up her hair, her clothes, and her makeup. She's starting to lose it. In her depression, she overeats and then falls asleep. The next scene shows us Elizabeth has now switched bodies. It's time for her show. Elizabeth, now in the young body, is dancing and shooting her show when she feels an odd lump on her lower body. She's completely confused and goes to the restroom. As she's poking at it, she pulls it out and realizes it's a chicken that she ate the night before. She freaks out and then wakes up, realizing it was all a dream. She has switched bodies and is getting ready to go to her show. As she arrives, she sees the crew packing everything up. They inform her that the show has been canceled. She rushes over to the director, who switches her anxiety into excitement, telling her that she's not going to do the old show, but rather a major New Year's Eve special. Elizabeth is ecstatic and accepts the offer without thinking twice. New Year's Eve is the exact day she needs to switch bodies, but she's not concerned about this at all. Sue stays in her new body for many days now, injecting the substance from her old body into her new body to keep it activated. This, of course, has terrible effects on Elizabeth's old body. After a while, when Sue finally switches back to her old body, she sees that she's aged horribly and looks absolutely withered from having all the substance taken from her. Elizabeth is furious with Sue, full of loathing. She begins ripping apart the Sue photos in the house, and even covers up the mirrors so that she can't see Sue's billboards. Elizabeth, in despair, calls the company and asks if there's any way she can get her old body back, the one that gave birth to her younger version. The company's representative explains that, as she was already told, it's too late to change things and she is now stuck with the body she is in. However, they tell her that she could end the cycle and she can stay in her old body. But Elizabeth refuses to give up. She gets a call for her show and immediately shifts bodies again. And as soon as she gets into Sue's body, she pulls out 3 months' worth of substance from the Elizabeth body and injects it into her. Elizabeth, as Sue, enjoys herself for 3 months. Right before New Year's, her fluid runs out. She has brought a girl to her place when suddenly she feels her organs begin to burst. She rushes to extract substance from her old body, but nothing comes out. She frantically calls the company, and they explain that there's no more substance left and that she'll have to wait for it to refill. They also tell her to switch to her old body for now. Sue's condition is worsening by the second. Without thinking, she starts switching over, and all of the noises of the body swap alarm the guy with her. He goes to the bathroom to check things out, but before he can see the old, scary Elizabeth, she locks him out. Elizabeth is now extremely old and bald, and moving is almost impossible. She calls the company, telling them that she wants to end it all. The company agrees and tells her to go and get the termination fluid. Elizabeth, in her terrible condition, does her best to cover herself up. She gets the termination substance, but just before injecting it into Sue's body, she remembers the company's manager saying that if she injects this, she will remain in whatever body she's in for the rest of her life. She looks at her old body and gets angry at Sue because of everything she has done. In a fit of anger, she injects the fluid into Sue, but only half of it because she remembers that she has a huge show to host and an award to get. She needs to hear people praise her the way they used to. In her selfishness, she doesn't inject the rest of the termination fluid into Sue, and she tries to wake her up. But when Sue doesn't wake, Elizabeth tries to switch bodies, but that also fails. She injects the activation fluid from her own spine into Sue. Sue is activated. Sue is livid after seeing that Elizabeth tried to terminate her. In her rage, she beats Elizabeth relentlessly until her head is cracked open and she dies. Sue realizes that what she has done is wrong. She now has no more substance or access to the activation fluid. She cleans everything up and goes to her New Year's show. The crowd welcomes her with a roaring cheer. She loves all the attention, but suddenly, she begins to feel strange, and her nose starts to bleed. She rushes to the restroom. When she opens her mouth, 2 of her teeth fall out. She touches the rest of them, and they also break off. She realizes that because the original Elizabeth is dead, her body is now falling apart. The only way to survive is to inject the activation fluid, so she rushes home. She tries to inject the activation fluid, but nothing happens. She remembers that she has that other substance that she had been told to only use once. Without hesitation, she injects herself with this, and she is hit by intense pain. Just like before, her body rips open at the waist, and out crawls a weird hybrid version of Sue and Elizabeth, a monstrous abomination. Sue is now a hybrid. Her mental state is completely distorted, and she doesn't really understand what she is now or if she can even show herself to the world. She covers her hybrid face with the Sue picture from the posters and goes to her show. As she stands at the microphone, the picture falls off, and everyone sees her hideous hybrid face. People recoil in horror. They call her a monster and run away. Someone, in a panic, swings a baseball bat at her face, smashing it open. Blood goes everywhere, and Elizabeth's body is falling apart into strange pieces. It crawls, like a bug, toward the place where Elizabeth Sparkle's star is located. Her entire body has fallen apart, and the only thing that remains is her face, lying there on the star, looking up to the sky with a smile. Then, even that piece shatters, leaving nothing but blood that, in the morning, is cleaned away by the cleaning crew. And that's how the story ends.